Welcome everyone. I'm so happy to have you all here. I'm excited. Today is the second episode of Student Access 101. This is a podcast where we discuss critical conversations in the pursuit of equitable education for underrepresented students. If you guys don't know me, my name is Dr. Tameka Ellington. I am your host. I'm an educator. I'm a researcher and an empowerment speaker and a lover of all things educational advancement and growth. Several years ago, I had the opportunity to go to Ghana, West Africa. To date, it's been the most amazing trip I've ever taken. Being in the space with our people, having a situation where not only are you there, but you're there and you're represented all over the place, and all of the businesses, all of the other places like stores, and every place that you went to it was all ran by schools. Everything was ran by Black people. I never experienced anything like it before. And I also had never felt so welcome in a space. And so I loved being in Ghana. I hated when it was time for me to go. But while I was there, I had an opportunity to meet our guest today, Nana Kwa David Whitaker. And he and I became fast friends. And Nana eventually became one of my mentors. And so we're going to be talking to Nana today. He's live streaming all the way from Ghana, West Africa. However, before we begin, I would like to take a moment of silence. Yet another Black man has been killed by the police, Amir Locke, out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. So he was killed on February 2nd, just 2 weeks from today. So let's take a moment of silence for Amir Locke. All right, we're going to jump right on in here. And Nana is in. We should all be able to see Nana. Can you hear me, Nana?
I hear you just like you were sitting right here.
Oh, good, good. And your reception is great.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, yes. So Nana has come with us all the way from Ghana. There, it's about 5 hours before us. So it's about what, 9 o'clock there right now?
It's 9:04. Five
Yes,
hours exactly ahead of you.
yes, yes. So I wanted to make sure that we can accommodate Nana's time and do our recording a little bit early today. But I wanted to uh, read Nana's bio so that everyone who is not familiar with Nana will be able to know just how amazing he is and how much of a major contribution he has made to education. And so David Kra Cremina II, aka Dr. Kra David Whitaker Esquire, was born Thursday, November 18th, 1943, and is a dedicated father and cultural advocate. In 1980, he simultaneously received his doctorate of philosophy degree from Case Western Reserve University with a specialization in educational psychology and his Juris Doctor degree from the Cleveland Marshall College of Law. Dr. Whitaker has been a career educator and cultural advocate for over 4 decades, and in his unrelenting quest to aid the development of urban student families and communities. Dr. Whitaker has served as a high school mathematics teacher, a graduate school coordinator, a school board member, as well as co-counsel in various desegregation cases. He's maintained a small family therapy and legal practice since the 1980s. His 25-year-old rites of passage transformation process for 25 to 30 Kent State University's freshman students is the recipient of an Innovative Programming Award. The sister program out in West Virginia, at West Virginia University, is in its 9th year. For the past decade, Dr. Whitaker has been involved with his daughters in the development of several rights-based urban charter schools that have received favorable state reports and continue to grow and expand. As part of his Akan chieftaincy and chair of the Board of Trustees for Antankwa Development Company, Nana Whitaker has made over 50 research and development trips to Ghana to oversee development projects and expand his knowledge base of rites of passage concepts, principles, and practices that form the educational foundation of his urban charter schools. Nana is confident that the behaviors, attitudes, and learning curves will show spontaneous and dramatic improvement when given the opportunity to experience the full benefit of the African cultural spiritual principles that enables our ancestors to lay the foundation for the civilization and make significant contributions to benefit all humanity. In addition to helping expand charter school offerings, improving Antankwa's infrastructure, health and education, and numerous civic commitments at home and abroad, Nana, and at home is for Nana is actually in Cleveland. So for those of you that don't know, Nana is from Cleveland. So Nana is an author of several books: Why I Became an African Chief, his sequel to David Walker's Appeal, What Traditional Governance Can Offer African Americans, and Reflections in a Black Man's Transformation. All right, Nana. So we're going to get right on into this. So Student Access 101 is a big advocate for first generation students. And just like me, you are also first gen. You and I have so many things in common. Being born on Thursday is one of our things in common, and being first generation students. And so I wanted to find out and for you to share with the listeners, what was it that made you have a drive and a motivation for wanting to attain your degree? So not only did you get a 4-year degree, but you got 2 doctorate degrees. So what was your motivation?
Well, Tameka, I would like to first make a couple of slight corrections.
Okay.
Some of the books that you noted from my bio have not been written, but they're in the process of being
Okay.
written. So I've written a
Okay.
book on rites of passage and also a book on why I became an African chief.
Yes.
So the other things are in process.
Okay. And I
And
have your book right here, The Why I Became an
okay,
African Chief. Yes.
okay. So
Thank you.
I would love to take credit for a lot of my journey, but I can't actually take credit as much as I might like to. But I was not interested in going to college at all.
Mm, mm.
But I grew up at a time, unlike today, with many of your listeners, where we took direction from our parents, even if we didn't like the direction. So I
Mm.
just did what I was forced to do. It, it was my mother that had the desire for me to go to college.
Yeah.
She always wanted and told me that I would be the first one in the family history to graduate from college. But I actually thought that she was a little bit unsophisticated, unaware, and over exaggerating her son's potential. But she enrolled me in Kent State University.
Mm.
I didn't even know I was going there. She enrolled me behind my back. Uh, as a high school senior, I was more interested in running the streets after graduation, sleeping half a day. I had a little job and
Mhm.
I was content. Unbeknownst to me, she was going to every university to try to enroll me. Uh,
Mm.
Finn College, which later became Case Western, which later became Cleveland State. She
Mm.
enrolled me. She tried to enroll me there, but they rejected me. Uh,
Really?
Western Reserve University, that ultimately became Case Western Reserve when they merged with Case. She tried to enroll me there, and they rejected me.
Mm.
And actually, the only way I got in college, because everybody rejected me, was that at that time, Kent State University had an open door policy that was
Mm.
by some state mandate, I guess.
Mm.
And I was able, no matter how poor your qualities of preparation was, Kent State had to accept you for 1 quarter.
Wow.
So my mother
Mm.
put me into Kent State University, registered me for classes, took me there, and rode around the campus with me during Thanksgiving weekend. I later found out that's why I saw no students, no teachers, nothing.
Yeah.
And she made me go there, and I didn't know I had an option not to go there because that's what she said. So I went,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
and it took me about a year to really understand what I was doing there. I was
Mm.
on academic probation after the first quarter. Then I was on academic probation after the second quarter. In the
Mm.
third quarter, I got a letter from the university that I didn't even know how to interpret it, but it was telling me unless I raised my grades, I couldn't come back.
Wow.
And so I had a roommate at the time. I still keep in contact with him. He
That's
taught
cool.
me how to go to class, take notes, highlight books. He made out my schedule, and that's what turned me around. But he gave me my first counseling.
Wow.
He gave me my
Wow.
first most important counseling lesson. He told me one day, he said, "You know, you're going to be upset with your mother long enough to ruin your whole life.
Ooh, wow.
You're angry that your mother
Wow.
made you come here, but you're going to ruin your whole life being upset with her because this is your future that you have a chance to shape." And
Wow.
he helped me to get on the right path. And so it was all about my orientation, my mindset, being focused on the wrong thing. I was angry with her because she made me go to this school. I couldn't get out of this school unless I flunked out, and I was on my way to
Mm.
do that.
Yeah, yeah.
So he turned me around, and so here
Wow.
I am. Uh,
Wow. And, just like me, being first gen, I mean, education changed my life. And the reason why I ended up going to school, Nana, was not necessarily because I wanted a college degree, but because I was ready to get out of the inner city. And
right,
going to school was one of the only ways that I could figure out how to do that.
right.
And that's why I went to school.
Well, I didn't figure out anything ahead of time. I figured out all the things after the fact.
One of the qualities that I am most intrigued about you is your journey into chieftaincy. From Cleveland, Ohio based lawyer and educator to Icon Chief. You discuss in your book Why I Became an African Chief. The main rationale for this decision to become a chief was to connect with a burning desire to educate Black people about cultures and history of our ancestors that have been long taken away. So, can you talk a little bit about your decision to become a chief and a bit about your journey?
Well, let me put it like this: once you've come down the path, so I'm 60 years since the story I told you about getting into Kent State. I was
Hmm.
I went in as I was 18 years old, and I'm 78 now. So it's 60 years since
Wow.
that decision that I've been using the university foundation as a part of my methodology to get someplace, assuming I'm
Mm.
getting someplace, but it's all come from that beginning. So, to the extent that students are listening or watching, most of what has marked my journey has almost been accidental and unknown by me consciously.
Mm.
So, I would suggest to the students or whoever's watching to get in touch with what's happening with you on a conscious level and on a subconscious level because you're being utilized for something.
Mm.
And you're on a path, and I never knew I was on a path until most
Right.
recently. But if I
Mm.
had known I was on a path at 18, I would have seen things that I overlooked.
Wow.
So, anyway, my path to chieftaincy wasn't my idea either.
Isn't that something how that
I,
happens?
yeah, I have been a much more conscientious student and follower than I've realized. But when I came out of school, I had a desire to do some things. At the time in the mid 80s, we were studying our history, our culture, and trying to get in touch with who we were.
Mm.
And I met a Ghanaian professor who was living in Milwaukee through a friend, Paul Hill in Cleveland, that was very much into rites of passage.
Mm.
So I met this teacher. He quickly became my image of a father figure and a grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually loved him, and he was so influential in my thinking.
Mm.
So around this same time, the late 80s, my mother, who was responsible for everything that you see right now in terms of what people think I've done, my mother has been the guiding force, the anchor, the rudder, the engine,
Mm.
because she's just forced me to do things that I wasn't thinking about.
Mm.
So at this time, My mother was diagnosed with breast cancer. When I graduated from Case Western Reserve, she was in the hospital.
Mm,
A month later, I had my graduation from the Cleveland Marshall College of Law, and she was not available.
mm,
So she went into the hospital in the day after Thanksgiving, 1989, and she told me when she went in that if anybody wanted to talk to her, they needed to come. And I said, well, no, you'll be home in a couple of days, and this will be no problem, and you're strong, and blah 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 blah. But she never actually came out of the hospital. So what prompted me to do what you're describing came about when she was in the hospital for about a month straight.
mm.
November 27th, uh, December 27th, uh, January. And then at some point, I decided with my father and my two brothers that she was not getting better.
Yeah,
She was not going to make it. And all the life support machines that were crowding her room were not actually bringing her back to health.
yeah,
So I decided on my own to tell the doctor, my father agreed, my brothers agreed to terminate the life support apparatus.
yeah.
The doctor said he would do it. I went the next day, signed the papers, was in the room with her, and they terminated the life support, and I left. And on my way to my office, I was driving back to my office, which was very nice in the suburb of Cleveland, Beechwood, and I started to feel uncomfortable, and that led to feeling somewhat unhappy, really. And then I was grief stricken by the idea that there could have been a cure to cancer that day, that my hastiness, because maybe I just was tired of going to the hospital. Maybe I was just sick of going through
Mm.
the routine and I
Wow,
wanted to be done with this. And maybe it was my idea about what I wanted to do and had nothing to do with her, even
wow.
though that's what I told myself. So, what prompted me to do what you're asking? I went to my office. I was feeling totally nauseated. I almost could throw up. I felt completely disoriented. And I sat down in my office in my chair, and a voice asked me, what have you done of significance? I took my chair, I turned it around, I looked at all the plaques, certificates, and awards that I had on my wall about Dr. Whitaker's done this, Dr. Whitaker's done that, Dr. Whitaker's done this. So I recited all these things out loud in my office by myself. I said, I've done this, I've done this, I got this recognition, I got that thing, I've got daughters, they're in school, blah, 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 blah. So I was confident that, okay, I had answered that question. But the voice asked me again, but what have you done of significance? And Tameka, for the next 2 weeks, I rode around going wherever I was going, haunted by the idea that I
Wow.
had not, with all these things that I think I had done and all of the things that people told me were significant and they were impactful and they were important, but they weren't important enough to answer the question that I was asked. So I made a decision eventually that obviously I hadn't done anything of significance because I had recited
Mm.
everything I'd already done.
Wow.
And I was convinced that I was going to get this question again eventually. And I wasn't going to be caught off guard or given an inadequate response.
Mm.
So I decided at that moment, this was in 1990,
Yeah.
I decided at that moment that there's one thing I haven't done. But if I did it, I thought it would be significant. And that
Mm.
one thing was to apply all of my talents, any skill I had, and my energy to the upliftment of Black people.
Wow.
And if I devoted my life to that, and if I made any progress on that, I was confident that the next time I get that question, I will have an adequate answer. And
Mm.
that, so it's my mother's drive that sent me to college. It's my mother's transition that forced me into a new way of thinking about things.
Wow.
So I often tell people that there are many times where the challenges that we have, the regrets that we have, especially when someone transitions,
Yeah.
you don't know that your growth is actually dependent upon and triggered by these events. So
Wow.
without this event, if my mother never passes, I never have to entertain this question.
Yeah.
So I look now upon her transition almost as a sacrifice to force me into a new dimension and way of thinking about what it is that I'm supposed to be doing on this earth. And so that wasn't a decision of mine. That was forced upon me by circumstances. And I believe that the ancestors have been guiding all these things. So you just kind of do what's in front of you,
Right.
follow it, and try to stay with the path like you're doing right now. You're
Yeah.
dedicated to trying to get something done, and you know what it is. And it appears, if someone watches you at a distance like I do at times now, it appears that you know exactly where this road is going or you want it to go. And everything that's required to be done on that path, you're willing to do it.
Yeah.
And so I say to young people all the time, start thinking about your life as meaning something.
Mm.
You came here to earth by whatever mechanism. Usually it's going to be your mother gives birth to you. So that's
Yeah.
the vehicle that gets you here. But you're here to do something that's monumental, significant, and will be a change agent to things that are around. You're actually, your birth is the solution to some problem.
Wow.
You just have to figure out what is the problem that you're supposed to solve. You came here to do something that is significant and life changing for everybody. And so you have to figure out what that is. And once you get a sense of what it is, you have to stick with that until you get it done or you die trying.
Wow. And
So,
Nana, I should have still been working in the fashion industry because my dream in life was to be a fashion designer, and that was all I was going to do. And here I am now. I mean, I would have never guessed that I would have been an educator. That's not what I wanted to do, but that's where God wanted me to be, and now here he kept whispering in my ear, like, this is what I need you to do. And so it's like, I finally just got to just listen and just do it.
you just have to follow. First, you have to be in. First, you have to, especially young people today, because see, we don't have any foundations today like our ancestors had. We don't have a strong community around us that knows things and can tell us. So we ought to stay on the right track. So we need to do more on our own because we don't have this infrastructure that has been available to everybody. So we have to actually find a community that we know cares about us,
Yeah.
and we know that we can take advice from them and we can trust that advice and we can follow them because they wouldn't try to hurt us. They're trying to only help us. And even if we don't agree with them, we'll still say, well, Dr. Ellington knows what she's talking about. So I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't feel like doing it, but I'm going to do it anyway. And
Yeah.
I'll see later what it meant and why it's important and why I had to go through this. So I say to young people, you have to first determine because every problem we have is a psychological problem.
Mm.
It
Wow.
has nothing to do with anything other than your mind.
Wow.
As much as you want to do something different, you can't do it as long as you say, I want to stay at Kent State University too, because you can't have both of these things
Yep.
because in some ways, they're incompatible.
Absolutely.
One
Yep.
won't allow you to do the other one. So there's a proverb that says, at the fork in the road, you can't go both ways at the same time.
Mm.
So once you come to a fork in the road, you have to know I have to go left, I have to go right. I can't
Mm.
go left and right. I can't go
Right.
left and keep right. I can't go
Right.
right and hold on to left. You have to actually make a decision of what you're going to do, and you have to move in that way. But in order to feel comfortable, you have to feel like there's a sense that this is really the path that you're supposed to be on. Otherwise,
Right.
you'll second guess yourself for the rest of your life and then regret it every time there's an obstacle. And there's always going to be an obstacle. Every
Yeah.
time you reach an obstacle, if you're not confident you're on the right path, you're going to regret that you took these steps at all.
Right. So it sounds like what you're saying is that we really need to be self-aware.
You
You know,
need
we
to
need
be
to,
self-aware.
yes,
You
yeah.
need to be self-aware, but first, even before the awareness, you have to have a subconscious realization that your life and what you do is important.
Mm, mm,
So
wow.
so when the chips are down or the going is rough, see, it's hard to keep going then unless you feel like your life is somehow meaningful.
Right.
Because you could just sit down and say, well, this is as far as I can get and I can't do anything else. And the odds are against me and the challenge is too great. The mountain is too tall. But if you say to yourself, but wait a minute, I'm an important person in this whole constellation of life. And
Mm,
maybe I'm the person I tell myself every day now. I've looked back and it just came to me one day that I said, Nelson Mandela was 6 years old at one point. At that
yeah,
point, he didn't know
yeah,
he was going to be Nelson Mandela.
yeah, yeah,
Harriet Tubman was 4 years old. She didn't know
yeah,
that she was going to be Harriet Tubman. And so I was, at this time, I was brushing my teeth and I was looking in the mirror and I said, those people were some of the most important people on earth that we know.
yeah.
But they didn't know that when they were 6 or 7 years old.
Hmm.
So I told myself, David, you could be one of the most important people on earth right now. And you
Wow,
don't know. Maybe
wow.
your destiny is for you to be something special. So when you get up and you get dressed and you go out of here today, the thing you have to do is work as hard as you can to become something and just don't screw
Hmm.
it up. Don't screw it
Wow,
up. Don't
wow.
screw it up by not trying. Don't screw it up by giving a half effort. Don't screw it up by ignoring the obvious things that are right in your face
Mm,
because you might just be one of the most important people on earth right now. You just have to keep
wow,
preparing yourself in case you are. If you aren't,
wow,
so be it. You don't lose anything. But
wow.
the
That's
world may be waiting for you. The world may be waiting for exactly what Tameka's gonna do. And
yeah.
until you do it, the world is on hold, waiting. Just
Oh my
waiting, waiting, waiting.
goodness.
So I would say all students, you got to look at yourself like there's something about you that is so special,
Mm,
so unique, and so sought after that there's no one else that's carrying that potential other than you.
right.
Your fingerprints tell you that, the DNA tells us that. There's so many things that tell us that we're unique. So if you're that unique, what you do may be that important to the world. So
Wow.
you have to get up every day, go out, and don't screw it up. You're
Mm,
destined to be great. So just don't screw it up by giving a half effort, by ignoring things, by being distracted. Focus on what it is that you really
mm,
feel like you're supposed to do. And if you don't know, you try to figure it out.
absolutely. Yeah.
And we also say that it's not that difficult to figure out what you're supposed to do because you're naturally good at so many things.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a good chance we say in rights, there's a good chance that what you love to do, that you
Yeah.
would do for free, that's easy for
Absolutely.
you, you're
Yep.
good at it, that's what you are supposed to be doing.
Nana, what you probably wouldn't believe this, but when I was a little girl, I was very shy. I would never get up and talk to anybody in front of anybody. I actually, when I was in high school, I wanted to become the student council president. But then
Mhm.
our teacher advisor said, "Well, you have to give a speech in front of the whole school." And I immediately said, "Okay, well, I'll be the vice president because because I can't get up I can't get up in front of a group
Right,
of people and
right.
speak." You know,
Not,
never would I have guessed that this is what I've been destined to do. Never would I've guessed that.
but the key that we keep that I would like to emphasize to whoever's listening, when we say we never would have thought this, we never would have thought that, that's only because the configuration of our consciousness at that moment has not entertained the possibility that we could actually be any of those things.
Wow.
But as soon as we change our mind and say, wait a minute, which all people do, there's a lot of things that we don't do until we see somebody that we know do it.
Yeah.
And we say, well, wait a minute. Tamika's, I know her. She's no smarter than me. So if she can do
Mhm.
that, I can certainly do
Mhm.
that. So we
Mhm.
become role models for each other.
Yeah.
So as
Yeah.
soon as we change our mind and say, I think I can do that,
Yeah.
then it's a different ball game. Now you're using skills and talents and resources that you never used, not because they weren't there, but you never needed them because you
Right.
weren't attempting to do anything that
Right.
required them. So, but as soon as you do, you go out with confidence. In Ghana, they have a phrase that it's not a phrase as much as a concept that I realized that my mother had, and that's how I got in college. Because my mother was not a college graduate. So imagine her not being a college graduate. She goes to Kent State and she makes out my schedule.
Mm.
She's so uh, taken by what she considers to be my potential that she put me in the honors classes. I couldn't do any of these things, but her vision of me was of a brilliant child
Yeah.
that could do anything. And so she
Yeah.
put me in the hardest things that you could have as a freshman. So I couldn't do any of it.
Yeah.
So she always had this drive that said, David, you should do this. You do this. You do this. But I couldn't do any of these things. But she felt that she believed that I could. One of the things I've learned most recently in Ghana, they have a concept that was actually displayed in the Matrix.
Mm.
There's a
The
scene in
movie
the
The Matrix?
movie The Matrix.
Okay.
The same concept is in the Matrix. It's the scene where Neo is on the roof with Trinity and he's trying to dodge the bullets or the agents. He gets hit by one bullet, and then they need to take this helicopter to get off of this roof. And he asks Trinity, can you operate that helicopter? She says no. And then she turns around, and in a couple of seconds later, she's downloaded all the instructions to operate this have been downloaded. She says, I can now.
Mm.
So Ghana has this concept in the culture that says if you're trying to do something, whether you know how to do it or not is irrelevant.
Mm.
But if you start moving towards that, everything you need in order to be prepared by the time you arrive is going to be
Right.
delivered to you en route.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So you just start going.
Yep.
So that, we also say if you take the first step on faith, you just take the first step on faith and just keep walking. And they believe that by the time you get to where you're wanting to go, you will have prepared yourself along the journey. The journey
Right.
is to prepare you,
Yeah. Yeah.
but you have to start moving towards the thing before the ancestors start to give you the instruction or the resources
Mm.
or whatever you need. You just have to
Wow.
start moving towards the thing because the thing is looking for you too.
Yeah, yeah, and so
You
many people
you
get tripped up on that, so many
right.
people, they stop because they feel like they don't have enough experience or, they just don't think that they have what it takes, to be able to do it, and so, yeah, absolutely, and like I said, I've never had any entrepreneurial skills. Nobody in my family's an entrepreneur, and so it's something that I'm, like you said, take a step on faith. And I took a step on faith and I'm learning as I'm going and I'm surrounding myself with people like you and like Dr. Frazier and other people that have been doing very well so that I can model, after what you all are doing.
That's all because it's not rocket science.
Right.
It's replication. It's replication with your personal twist to it,
Yeah. Yeah.
your personal style to it. I'm still shocked that when you came to Ghana, I'm still shocked. I'm still shocked at this, but it's a perfect example. It's a
Okay.
perfect example of what we're talking about. You came to Ghana, your first trip to Ghana, I believe.
Yeah.
And one morning I said, well, where is Dr. Ellington? They said, well, she went to Winneba Junction. I said, well, how did she get to Winneba Junction? Said she took a Uber. I said, she took a Uber. Ghana has Uber? They said, yeah, Ghana has Uber. I said, I never heard of that. So she came here and she took a Uber someplace uh, because there's something you wanted to get done.
Yeah.
And whatever was going to be required to get it done, even in a foreign country, you were going to use whatever resources were available and go towards what you're doing. That's
Yeah.
the whole concept of living your life.
Yeah.
People would say, if you call somebody in the U.S., say, I'm going to take a Uber from Elmina to Winneba Junction. They say, girl, is it safe there? You think that's all
Right.
right? Does that
Right.
make
Right.
sense to you? Oh, I wouldn't do that if I was you. She said,
Hmm.
well, I've already called the Uber. The Uber's it'll be here in a little while, so I'm going. Because
Yeah.
everybody else's fears can talk you out of the thing that you're supposed to be doing.
Yep. Yep.
And
Absolutely.
so I'm still amazed at that uh said she's gone. She went to one of our junction. I said, she did? I said, okay,
I was on a
okay.
mission, Nana. I
Yeah.
was on a mission. Yes. Yes.
So so it's
Yes.
good. But
Yes.
every person listening, you just said something that's critically important. Every person listening needs to understand that their life is a mission
Yeah.
that most people are not on that mission.
Mm.
They have that mission, but they're not on that mission.
Wow.
So they're sitting around waiting for what? They're waiting for themselves to become aligned with the mission that they're on.
Wow.
So they're looking at you and saying, girl, you really got it. You really know what you're doing. But everybody else should know what they're doing too.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Everybody should know what they're doing. And everybody should be on that mission.
Mission. Yeah. Yeah.
then you
Yeah.
then then you can easily recognize, as you move around, you can recognize comrades of yours because they're on the same mission that you're
Yeah.
on. They're just on a different
Absolutely.
path, but you can see they're trying to do the same thing you're trying to do, so
Mhm.
they can be your allies. You can help each other because the missions recognize each other.
Yes. Yes.
So say,
Yes.
well, do this. This will help you. Or people will send you things that you never even asked for because they know what you're trying to do. So
Yeah.
they have something that you can need. They give it to you.
Yeah.
So everybody should take that to heart. Say, what is my mission? Because that's
Yeah.
what Rites of Passage is about. Rites of Passage is about getting in touch with your purpose, your mission for being on earth. Unless you think that you're on earth just because,
Mm. Wow.
but
And
there's
that was
no
going to be
one.
my next question was about rites of passage. And you've had several rites of passage charter schools and you've mentored several students through rites of passage. So can you tell everyone a little bit about what exactly rites of passage is?
Rites of passage, what we refer to as rites of passage, is actually a socialization process of our ancient ancestors, where the belief is that every person that comes to earth with a gift that's got to
Mm,
be turned over to the world. So you have a gift that you brought from heaven
right.
or the other dimension. You brought this gift because there's something that the world needs and you have part of it with you. So you
Yeah.
came to deliver that gift.
Right.
But when you arrive, you're so young and kind of ill prepared to deliver the gift, so you need to be developed.
Yeah.
And but your mission is always in your consciousness. But the society, the acculturation, the maturation that we go through, the socialization that detracts us from our missions. We start to mimic somebody's behavior, which is not our mission.
Right.
We want to be like somebody, but that's maybe their mission, but that's not our
Right.
mission.
Right.
So it's a long story, but I'm making it shorter. So you have to determine what your mission is, then you have to be prepared to deliver that gift. So if your gift is to be a famous playwright, well, you can't become a famous playwright if you can't read and write yourself.
Right.
So you have to have the skills and talents to do the job.
Right.
So you have to develop yourself so that you can deliver your gift. And the gift that you are trying to deliver, you will work on that without compensation
Yep.
because you love doing this so much that
Yep.
you would do it whether someone paid you or not.
Because you are not for free.
You
Absolutely.
you will
Yep.
do it. You'll do it for free. That tells you that it's kind of in the category of what it is you may have come here to do, because you will do it without reward.
Yeah.
Your reward is simply in doing it.
Right.
You can
That's where,
give something and you're
right.
so gratified by that that nobody has to say thank you.
Yeah.
Nobody has to pay you. you would know that you're doing, as religious people say, you're doing God's work. And so you don't need to be paid to do that. You
And
get
it's
paid as you do it. It pays you itself.
wow, Nana, since I've been on this journey now as an entrepreneur, I've never felt joy the way that I feel it now. I mean, the amount of joy. I mean, I just get up every day and just joy, just knowing that I'm on the mission,
Right.
Yeah.
You're on the path.
Yes.
Every time I have some distress, discomfort, I talk to Nana Duakwa almost every day. But
Uh-huh.
whenever I describe something that's frustrating to me, he said, Nana, don't worry about that. I said, why you say don't worry about it? He said, because there's 1,600 people in this village that are praying for you every single day.
Wow.
They're praying that nothing happens to you, nothing
Wow.
frustrates you. So he said, don't worry about these things. That's a small thing you're worried about. You got 1,600 people that are praying that nothing happens to you at all. So I said, well, if you put it like that,
Yeah.
I'll keep going. But
Yes.
so the rewarding thing is doing what you came here to do.
Yeah.
You just have to get focused on. If you say, I usually do surveys in speaking engagements. I say, well, is there anybody here? Let me see the hands of the people here that feel that their life has a special meaning.
Mm, mm.
Everybody raises their hand.
Right. Right.
No one would admit to you that they think their life is pointless.
Right.
Nobody admits that. So then
Right.
I follow up with the question, say, well, if your life has special meaning, what is the special meaning of your life? Now nobody knows the answer to that question.
Mm.
You said, well, I know what I like. I said, I didn't ask you what you like. I said, what is the special meaning of your life? So
Wow.
I would say to the students or the listeners, assume that your life has a special meaning. Assume that you're not here by accident. Assume that the universe is counting on you to do something. Assume that without you doing it, it will not be done at all because there's no backup to you.
Mm, 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 mm,
God
mm.
has sent you here, or the ancestors know you're here, and there's nobody backing you up. There's no substitute to you. So just make those assumptions and then decide, what does that mean to you?
Wow.
The universe is counting on you for something big, and you're living small. You're not even thinking about these things. Your mind hasn't even entertained the idea. You're just sitting around complaining about what somebody else is doing, or
Mm.
suggesting what they should be doing, or suggesting how you could be doing it. And I bet there's probably been hundreds of people that tried to tell you how to be an entrepreneur. They've never done one thing that's
Yeah.
entrepreneurial. They've never done one thing. So, girl,
That's true.
I wouldn't have quit my job
Oh,
because you don't know this
I've
thing gonna
heard
work
that
out.
so many,
You
I've
don't know
heard that
this.
so many
Oh
times,
yeah.
Nana.
He said, you don't know
So
this is
many
gonna work
times.
out. You don't know this
Yep.
is gonna work out. So that was stupid. I wouldn't have done that. Well,
Yep.
you could even say to them, well, you couldn't have done that because you don't have the job that I had. You couldn't have quit a
Hmm.
job that you didn't have.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah.
you can say anything because you're not in my shoes.
Right.
And I say the other thing to young people that's really helpful to them in a way is that no one can actually tell you what you should do
Absolutely not.
because
Absolutely.
no one is in your shoes on your path.
Yep.
So the
Yep.
only people that think they can tell you what to do are people that are suggesting things that they think might uh, diminish your success. Most of the time it's to diminish
Woo.
your success. It's trying to discourage you from doing what you're talking about. That's why we say, well, if you got a big idea, don't tell it to anybody.
Absolutely.
Because most of the
Yep.
people are going to tell you it's not a big idea, or they'll
Yep.
tell you it's not going to work, or they're going to tell
Hmm.
you that it could work, but you can't work it,
Do it.
or they
Yep.
can tell you,
Hmm.
other people can do that, but you can't do it, and or
Hmm.
what makes you think you can do this? What makes you think you can be an entrepreneur?
Right.
So
Yeah.
people would just talk you out of your idea. So the
Absolutely.
best thing to do is don't discuss the idea that much because it's too big. What you really
Mm.
want to do is too big to discuss. It has to be demonstrated. So you
Mm.
just keep on doing what you're doing and let people say, well, that's amazing. Well, it's
Right.
not really amazing for a person that can do it. It's not that amazing. It's only amazing for someone that doesn't understand something. So it looks
Yeah.
amazing to them.
Right.
To a child, multiplication looks like the most magical thing in the universe. To a 4-year-old,
Right.
multiplication, oh my God, that's like a miracle. No, it's
Yeah.
not. So the people that are talking, they have to see something, and most people have to see something. They can't imagine that much.
Yeah. You,
So,
my social media post this week is all about imagination
oh,
and
okay,
using your imagination and allowing your imagination to speak to you so that you can find your purpose.
right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I got distracted, but so go ahead with the things you want me to respond to.
It's okay, Nana. I enjoy talking to you. The last question that I wanted to ask you was in regards to the Obakesi University of Excellence. So you've spent many years as a advocate for African American education, overall Pan African education, and we just now started this new program or this new school, Obakesi University of Excellence, which is housed in the central part of Cape Coast, right?
It's in Asebo, which is adjacent to Cape Coast proper. Yeah,
Okay,
right.
okay, okay. And can you tell everyone a little bit about what you all are hoping the Obakesi University of Excellence will contribute to the community?
Well, it's much bigger than that. So it'll be a demonstration project.
Mm,
But as I mentioned earlier, all of our problems as African people have to do with our consciousness. They're
right?
all psychological problems. And what we have done and what we have to undo, we haven't done it. It's been done to us.
Mm,
And we didn't really appreciate what was happening to us, but it has happened to us and we have to undo it.
yeah,
We I gave a Black History Month talk last Wednesday in our Black History lecture series. And my talk was making a case for transformation.
mm,
And I started out by saying, African people, history is not confused about this anymore. African people were the first people on this planet of modern man.
yeah,
Lucy is the mother to all these people on this planet. And for 5,000 years, African people lived without knowing there were any non African people in the world.
wow,
We had dynasties in Kemet, 25 for sure, before
yeah,
the Europeans started to invade. And then you had another
hmm,
7 or 8, but they were all European controlled. So we had 25 dynasties, and the splendor, the achievement, the genius of African people was on display for everybody to see. We had major empires: old Ghana,
yeah,
Songhai, Mali, the richest man in the world to date, still to date, Mansa Musa. It's
yes,
all before we even knew about these people.
yeah,
So these people come into our life, and for 500 years, we're disrupted and distracted. And we
mm,
are transformed into people that are different than the people that did all these things that preceded this intervention, this involvement with these people. So now, in the diaspora, particularly in the United States, we're suffering from post slavery mental illness. And on the continent of Africa, the people are suffering from post colonial mental
yes,
illness.
yep, yep,
What we think about, how we think about things, what we say we're trying to do is all based on white imagery, white standards, white goals, and it's a trick bag.
yeah,
It's not leading us any place. We're not getting better. We're not getting more advanced. And there's a proverb, one of my favorite, that says, going back to tradition is your first step forward.
wow,
So my whole thrust, the whole thrust of rites of passage is to introduce students to an African centered way of thinking so that your actions, your solutions to problems, your innovative adjustments to things will all be based on using the African centered consciousness that our ancestors displayed for 5,000 years.
Mm.
So, so the university is designed to teach, instill, inculcate students with an African consciousness.
Yeah.
As John Henry Clark says, there are no non African solutions to African problems.
Wow.
In other
Wow.
words, white folks' techniques, strategies, preparation is not going to help us solve our problems.
Right.
It's only going to help us to maintain their dominance
Absolutely.
unwittingly.
Yeah.
So the
Absolutely.
university is to put in place a physical structure that will be recognized as an African centered institution.
Mm.
There's no such institutions in Ghana right now. There's
Yeah.
no such institution on the African continent right now.
Wow.
So we intend to create an institution that is unapologetically African centered. Its focus is two things. One, to, of course, teach all the subject matter. Nobody
Yes.
says there's anything wrong with math. We invented math. There's nothing wrong with the geometry. We invented geometry. Uh, the Hippocratic oath is really Imhotep's oath. We
Yeah.
did that. The pyramids show that we understood geometry long before the father of geometry. So
Right.
nobody's saying anything about these things. These are all things that we invented in the first place. So nobody's saying we shouldn't teach that. But what we are saying is we have to have the kind of development that will enable students and all people to come away with a deep-seated understanding of Ubuntu.
Mm.
I am because we are. And because we
Mm.
are, therefore I am.
Mm.
We need to know that we are all interrelated, and our efforts have to be focused on the interdependency that we have with people like us.
Yeah.
So that's a concept. The other
Yeah.
concept is Azuzi, Asodzi. Azuzi means, unlike the US and most places that have a Bill of Rights and all these rights that you have the right to free speech, is you have a right to free speech as long as you don't say something that people don't like. Then you realize you don't have that right.
Right.
That's a
Hey.
conditional. That's a conditional right. But
Yeah.
Asutsi says that rights are not what we're talking about. You have duties, responsibilities, and obligations.
Mm.
You have duties to your community, to your family, to yourself. You have
Yeah.
responsibilities to your community, to your family, to yourself. And you have obligations to your family. Once you take care of all those things, you realize that rights are not all that important,
Mm.
because your duties, responsibilities, and obligations require you to do things in
Yeah.
order to move the collective forward. So our university is designed to bring about this consciousness and a sense of Pan-Africanism,
Yeah.
that if Africa right now, based on the fact that it is unequivocal that Africa is the richest continent
Yeah.
in the world. It has mineral deposits, resources that no other place has.
Yeah.
And all the world is feeding off of it.
Yeah.
And Africa's poor. So that is a failure of consciousness.
Yeah.
You can't tell me that you could sit on all this wealth
Right.
and then go borrow money from the people that are taking the minerals from you. Then you're going to borrow money from them, but they're getting the minerals that you have to make themselves
Wow.
wealthy, and then you ask them for a handout.
Mm.
That's a question of consciousness.
Right.
You're
Yeah.
delusional, you're crazy or something. So that's the university is designed to accomplish that in a physical way.
Yeah.
But we also want to demonstrate that, like you mentioned, I have charter schools. We had African centered charter schools in Cleveland.
Yes.
Uh, the charter schools in Cleveland were based on the Akan traditions that we teach in rites of passage.
Ah,
That's the foundation of the school.
yeah,
But you can imagine that to try to implement those kinds of structures in Ohio
yeah,
can be difficult because A, we're not dealing with African people, so
right.
everything is new.
Yeah,
You have a State Department of Education that doesn't understand what you're talking about, so they resist it.
yeah,
And so half of what the school's potential has not been realized because we've never been able to implement
yeah,
many of the key components.
yeah,
It'd be like you saying, I'm having difficulty getting my brand started. I say, why is that? Because TikTok won't allow me to be on. Facebook won't give me a
right,
page. Instagram won't let me be on. So I can't really promote the things I like to promote because I don't have any vehicle to do it.
right, right.
So it's going to take me a lot longer.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
so we're going to replicate the school in Cleveland here in Ghana.
Wow.
It's already
Wow.
been it's already been incorporated. We've already got the land. So we're going to bring the school and it will work much better here because if you talk
Yes.
about day names here, see, that's not a surprise to anybody.
Yes.
They
Yes.
already have, so nobody has to say, well, why? What does that mean? Why do we
Yeah.
have to say the girl's name is Abba? Or
Yeah.
why do we have to do that? So you get
Yeah.
all this pushback. So we say, well, we won't even do that. We just put the names up and you can look at it if you want.
Right.
So that's what it is. It's a change of consciousness. And in
Yeah.
every way and every opportunity we have in any venue, we're talking about the same one thing: become an African thinking person.
Yeah.
Because if you think like an African, you'll come up with solutions to things that are germane to African people
Mm. Yeah.
instead of telling them, well, you need to, like you've been to Ghana, so say, well, in order to do your business, you need to have a new 500 Mercedes. You say, well, why do I need that?
Right.
What does that got to do with it? Well, these are just the things you have to have. Well, maybe in Hollywood you need that,
Right.
but that's not necessary here to do what you're doing.
Right.
So we have to start thinking like African people.
Mm.
And
Yes.
so the
Yes.
university is designed to develop students that will think like African people.
Wow.
And
Which is amazing to
so
even
we do that.
begin to, yeah, to begin to do that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to have a conference. You'll come to it too. September, we're having an all African student conference.
Oh,
People from
nice.
the U.S., we're working on setting it up now, getting a save the date flyer out. So you'll come to
Okay.
it.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So, so
Absolutely.
we're just trying everywhere we look. The same problem is everywhere you look. Everywhere
Yeah.
you look, you'll find that the problem is that people don't understand what you're doing because they're not thinking like African people. If they
Right.
were, they would
Right.
understand perfectly what you're doing,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
and they would
So,
understand why.
yeah. Yeah.
But
So,
they're not
Nana,
thinking like that. Yeah.
yeah, I want to thank you so much for being on with me today. And did you have any final words that you might like to say, or how can people get your books that you have published?
Well, they can go to my website, which is
Okay.
AfricanChiefBooks.com.
Okay. African Chief
AfricanChiefBooks.com.
Books.com. Okay.
The thing I would say to anyone listening, you have my email address, which is
Yes.
Ashe, ASHE1 LTD at Gmail.
Yes.
Since everybody knows my mission now, I always say, if there's anything you think that I can do to help you, just email me, remind me of this conversation, tell me what you're trying to do. And as long as I'm breathing,
Mm,
anything that I have that I think you can use, I'm going to give it to you.
wow.
So that's my closing, because this is
Yes.
my mission. This is the only thing I'm on earth to do.
Your
It's the only thing
significance,
I'm
Nana.
thinking about. It's
Is
for
yes,
significance.
your significance.
Right.
Yes, 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 yes.
There's
Love it.
nothing else. This is it.
Yeah.
This is it. And anything I can do, I'm gonna be open, willing, and God willing, able to help in some way. And I've got a lot of stuff that might be helpful.
Thank you. I
So
mean, I'm just honored that you were able to do this. And it just speaks volumes to your dedication of wanting to educate our people about our ancestors, about the things that we just don't know was taken away from us, you know. And so I appreciate you, and I love you so much, and I thank you so much for being a
I
part of
love you
this.
too. Now, one thing, you don't have to give me too much credit, because we say when the rooster crows in the morning, it's not because that's the rooster's chance to receive accolades. That's the rooster's job. That's the rooster's job. So I'm only doing my job. So I should be helpful. I should be doing everything I can, and so I'm just doing my job. So it's nice to hear people say thank you. I'm so happy. This, that, and the other. But
Yeah.
even if that wasn't said, this is my purpose.
Yes.
So
Yes.
you don't need a whole lot of incentive to do what you're supposed to be doing. It's nice to
Absolutely.
hear it, but if you didn't hear it, you still do it.
Yeah.
Because
Absolutely.
the other thing I've learned, and I know you're gonna close, but I would say to other people, especially in Ghana, but it's true anywhere. It is so easy to be helpful.
Ah, yeah.
It is
Yeah.
not difficult to help people. And you'll
Mm,
find that the simplest thing that you can do that may be profoundly important to the person is
yeah.
so easy for you to do it. So I
Right.
frequently tell people now that those who can must.
Wow.
If you
Wow.
can do it, you're obligated to do it. You should be thankful that God gave you that capacity, gave you that
Yeah.
skill, made the thing that you could do that's so meaningful to something else, somebody else. It's so simple for you.
Yeah.
It's so simple for you to do. What justification could you give yourself for not doing something
Doing
that
it.
is so easy for you to do?
Only thing I can think of is selfishness.
That's all. That's selfishness. But
Mm-hmm.
that's a European, that's a Western idea.
Mm.
If
Mm.
I
Yeah.
help this person, then they might get ahead of me, and
Right.
I can't. Then nobody helped me, but a lot of people have helped you. You just
Yeah.
haven't paid much attention to the help you've gotten.
Right. Right.
If you're still alive, you have been helped.
Mm.
You have not kept yourself alive. You have not kept yourself alive on your own.
Oh, wow.
You've had all
Wow.
kind of help to just stay alive.
Yeah.
So just the stuff that you can do that's easy to do, just do it. Just do it.
Yes.
Do it to help somebody. You never know how rewarding that is for you.
Yes.
And it's so easy
Absolutely.
to do, especially the things that you just natural.
Right.
You natural capacity. How could you not do that? How could
Yeah.
you not use that to help people that don't have that capacity?
Right. Yeah.
So,
Absolutely. Well,
well, I'm happy we made the hookup. The
yes.
network didn't get in our way, and I
Yes.
hope I've said something in all this rambling that might be useful.
Absolutely. Please tell everybody there that I said hello.
I will. Nana told me he saw. We were just finished eating. Nana said, "I saw Dr. Ellington's post. It had you on it." I said, "Really?" I, I said, "What was it?" I said, "She was probably advertising the webinar
Uh-huh.
webcast tonight." He said, "Yeah, that's what it is." He said, "But I
Yeah.
saw it." He just
Yeah.
told me that before we got on.
Oh,
So I'll
tell
tell him.
him
I'll
I
tell
said
him.
thank you. I miss being there. Please tell everybody I said hello.
I will. I will.
Yes.
P asked about you the other day.
Uh that's my friend. P
That's
is
your
my
friend.
yes, yes it is. Yes. Yes.
He was riding shotgun with you in your trips to.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, I'd like to just thank you for having me on, and I'm hopeful that anybody listening, the students, particularly students, because
Yes.
students are the future.
Absolutely.
Students are the future. Our job is to just help them get firmly on the path,
Right.
and then we'll step out of the way. We've
Right.
done our part. Our part is
Right.
to help be the guide to the path and help encourage them to stay with it. And they're
Right.
capable enough and brilliant enough and resourceful enough to follow the path, and they will do what needs to be done under whatever the circumstances that present themselves. So I'm not even
Right.
worried about the future in that sense. If we prepare people, they know what to do. You'll know what to do when the opportunity presents itself, when circumstances develop, you'll do what an intelligent person would do.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay,
Have a good
girlfriend.
evening. Have a
I
good evening. I
will.
wanted to try some of my tree with you, Maju. Is that how you say good evening in tree? Maju.
Oh, I don't know the tree.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
day, when we say is good night. Day,
Good night, Daye. Daye,
day,
Nana.
or just bye. We say bye. And Fanta, you say bye bye.
Bye, Nana.
Okay, okay. Bye.
Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining me today. This was an amazing interview with Nana Kwa, David Whitaker, icon African chief. He's an amazing person, as you can see. My mentor, my one of my close friends. He has been one of the people that have helped me get on the path to entrepreneurship. So I thank Nana so much for everything that he's done. And for those of you that are interested in knowing a little bit more about the research that I've done, because every time when I do this, I don't want you to just take my word for it or the guest words for it, but I would love for you to also do the research yourself. Along the bottom, you'll see that it's been ticking across. That's the research that I did to get prepared for this particular session, all about Afrocentric rites of passage and the benefits that it has for Black people. So please take a look at that. And I appreciate you all being here with me this evening. Everyone, have a good night.